I think it's like 15 or 17 of them. Oh, my light. God damn it. Oops. I'm kind of a klutz. At least I'm living up to my name, right? Hi friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a book haul for you. I've been a bit naughty, I guess, and I've been collecting some books lately. I have a bunch of books here. I'm just gonna share them with you because these are all very exciting and I'm so happy that I have them. But now I don't have any more space on my shelves or in my room, so I need to stop with the book buying. Like for real, I have no space at all left. So this is it. Never buying books again. Okay, that's not really true. I'll probably buy them sooner than I think and hope, but I'll try to behave myself and not buy that many books in the near future at least. I'm not sure where to start. I have just kind of piled them up. In like early February I actually went to a bookstore for like first time in ages, I feel like, and I picked up 4 books in Swedish by Swedish authors, which I'm actually very excited about. One of them is Anxious People or Folk med ångest by Fredrik Backman, and if you don't know, I read this in January. I borrowed it from my library as an ebook and I completely fell in love with it. It was my first Fredrik Backman book ever. It completely floored me. It's so good. It's hilarious, but it's also deep. It's kind of a mystery, but also like a humor book. It's very hard to explain. It's about a failed robbery, and the robbery sort of turns into a hostage situation where there are some people attending an open house for an apartment and they get taken hostage. And the story is told through the police's perspective as they are trying to figure out what happened during this hostage situation. But we also learn a lot about the characters that were involved in this situation and their current lives and like whatever is going on with them. This book made me laugh out loud, but it also made me want to cry. It's so deep and it really hits. I just knew that I had to get this one so that I can reread it in the future and like annotate it and highlight my favorite quotes and such, because it's just such an amazing book. I was so impressed by it. Because I enjoyed that book by Fredrik Backman so much, I picked up 2 other Fredrik Backman books. This one is quite a famous one. It's En man som heter Ove, or I think it's called A Man Called Ove in English. It's a movie. It's like an international phenomenon, this book. I have neither read the book or seen the movie, so I'm actually not too sure what it's about. But it's about this man, his name is Ove. He's 59 and I think he's kind of grumpy and sometimes mean. From what I gather, it's a heartwarming and hilarious book. I don't know, something will happen to him and he will become nicer. It's my guess. I'm not sure. The 3rd Fredrik Backman book I have is Björnstad or Beartown, which is also a HBO show. This one is a heavier book than the other 2 that I mentioned. It follows some students and like youths in a small town in Sweden. It's a lot about community and it's a lot about sport, because I think the thing with this book, it doesn't say clearly on the back of it, but I think the premise is that there's this hockey team that is super successful, but one day one of the guys, like I believe they are around 17 years old, one of the boys in this team gets accused with having sexually harassed or perhaps even raped, I think, a girl. And this hockey team is such an important part of the community's and the town's identity. There's kind of a lot of conflict about how to handle this situation. Should they believe the girl or should they believe the boy, because he's important for the hockey team? So it's quite a heavy and serious book in that regard, and I think it will bring up a lot of important discussions and a lot of important issues, I think. The 4th Swedish book I picked up is Hypnotisören by Lars Kepler. Does it have a translation? Hypnotisis? Someone that hypnotizes people. That's the title of this book, and it's apparently the black edition. I had no clue what that meant. It's a newer edition of this book, which means that it has added like perhaps some chapters and it's apparently quicker, and I don't know, it's different than the first edition at least. One of my very close friends she loves this book series. This book series, it's like a mystery book series. We're following a detective or something. Or it's called like a detective book. I'm so bad at this, I can't explain Swedish books. It's a crime book. And it's a part of a series, and that series is very well known, and it has like 7 or 8 books. As I mentioned, I want to get more into Swedish authors. So I thought that this would be a good book to like do that with and read a typical Swedish crime book. Scandinavian crime is like its own genre in many ways. I am definitely interested in seeing what all the hype is about. The next book I'm hauling is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hossein. This is a book that I'm actually going to read for the Tropical Readathon. It's the team book, or one of the team books for the contemporary / historical / literary fiction team, which I'm a part of. It's a story that takes place in Afghanistan. It's apparently about the friendship between a wealthy boy and a servant. It tackles a lot of issues such as politics and classes in the society. I'm actually really excited about this one. I don't have that much more to say about it at the moment, but hopefully it will be a very good read once I read it in March. Next up I have Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This was released quite early in January, so it's a 2021 release, and it caught my eye because of the cover. It's obviously inspired by Medusa. I always mix it up if it's ancient Greece or ancient Rome. Like which one has Athena, which one has Zeus. I've heard that it's being compared to the Hunger Games. From what I gather, it's like a modern gods story. It takes place in New York. The premise is that every 7 years, Zeus punishes the gods by making them mortal for 1 week. So they have to walk along Earth. And during this time, while they are mortal, of course, since the gods usually aren't that friendly with one another, some people will see this as an opportunity to take revenge and I guess try and kill one another. Kind of this kill or be killed, focus on surviving and like revenge sort of plot. I know that many people were hyped about this book. I haven't heard the best things about it. I haven't really heard anything bad, but from what I gather, it just doesn't live up to everyone's expectations on the book. I have no clue what I will think of it, but I could not buy it. It's a 2021 release, which is something I do want to focus on. I want to read more new publications and releases. I'm conflicted about this though. I don't know. Let's move on. Next up we have speaking of the Hunger Games, kinda. Battle Royale by Kushin Takami. I probably butchered that, I am sorry. This is a book written by a Japanese author. The premise is a class of high school students are taken to a deserted island and will have to kill one another until there's only one survivor. It's kind of like a modern Lord of the Flies, from what I gather, although I have not read Lord of the Flies yet, and it is said to be one of the books that inspired The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. It's a massive one, like it's 600 pages. It could be really cool. It does look kind of gory or graphic, at least judging by the cover, and I've also heard that the descriptions of some of the, I guess, the killing events or the fighting and the violence in this one might be a bit graphic. So perhaps not the easiest read in that regard. I think it looks really cool actually. I do like this cover, so I am very excited about this book. Next, one of my most, or if not the most, anticipated book of 2021 for me. And that is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I just need to share this with you because it made me so happy when I first opened out my package. And that is that this book is super floppy. It's so floppy. Not only is it my most anticipated read, but it's also like the floppiest book ever. I love floppy books. This makes me insanely happy. I talked about this one in my 5-star predictions video, or like most anticipated, I don't remember what it's called, but I talked about this book in that one. Here we're following a 16-year-old girl named Dekka, and she is about to be a part of a ritual that sort of confirms that she is a member of her village. It's sort of a blood ritual, so if her blood runs red, she's normal. But if her blood runs gold, that means she's something else and belongs somewhere else. And unfortunately for her, her blood runs gold. And because of this, it triggers a lot of events, and she ends up in an army of girls that are just like her. Their purpose is to protect the empire. It's a West African inspired story, it's a YA fantasy, and I've been anticipating this release for a year, so I'm just so happy to finally have it in my hands. I think it's gonna be a series, like a trilogy. I just hope that I will enjoy it as much as I have been anticipating it. We're gonna have to see. Next up is another book that I mentioned in that 5-star predictions anticipations video, and that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. It's apparently reminiscent of those Hong Kong gangster films. It's a fantasy, but it's gangsters and it's kung fu. It's all over the place, but it sounds really cool and dark and interesting. Basically, it's about Jade, like the stone Jade, because in this book Jade enhances a warrior's strength and speed. And one day a new sort of drug is introduced to the market that makes it so that everyone basically can wield Jade. Because of this, it will start bringing a lot of tension to the city, so it will become a war, I guess. I've heard amazing things about this book. I know that Daniel Green loves this one. I'm personally hoping that it will remind me of the Poppy War. If you don't know, I love the Poppy War. Hi, my name is Charlotte and I love the Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Those are my hopes, in all honesty, that this will be like a good follow-up to the Poppy War. I think it's gonna be good. The next book I bought is one that I've been eyeing for a while, and I've heard so many just amazing things about it, and that is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Now, this is a very heavy book, a very difficult book, all of the trigger warnings for this one, but it's about a woman who, when she was 15, she had a relationship with her teacher. She always believed that this relationship was completely voluntary, that it was love and there was consent. But things start stirring up because another woman one day accuses this teacher of sexual assault, and a journalist turns to Vanessa in order to interview her about the teacher. And she basically starts to question, or being questioned with, if that relationship actually was consentful. Is that the word? I think it's very interesting because of course it tackles the topics of grooming and those issues. But another thing that I've heard that this book will really discuss is Vanessa's feelings about coming to this realization that this relationship that has sort of defined her, that this relationship wasn't with consent and that it was actually assault. And I believe she will have this sort of conflict that, well, if I'm suddenly start to think of myself and understand that I'm a victim, how will that affect me? For many that might be a reason why they struggle with admitting that they are victims. I think it will be a very important and difficult read. I've heard so many good things, but I do think that this might be very heavy. We then have another book that I've been meaning to get for a while. I have just struggled with figuring out what edition should I get. And that book is Tarzan of the Apes by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I might have butchered that last name. We all know the story of Tarzan, right? We have all seen the Disney movie, which, if you don't know, Tarzan, the Disney movie, is my favorite Disney movie of all time. And it has sort of defined me as a person as well. Like my love for Disney's Tarzan, like both the movie and the TV show and the soundtrack, honestly everything about it, I'm obsessed. I love that movie with all my heart. It's been my favorite movie for as long as I can remember, and it's definitely something that I feel like defines me. So of course I've been wanting to read the original story for Tarzan. I am aware that the original story don't match Disney's version of Tarzan. That's why I was debating, oh, which edition should I get? Because the thing with this book is that it's actually a part of a series. I believe that this book has 22 sequels, which is insane. I believe Penguin Classics only does the first book in the series, in this edition. And I do think that if I want to continue with the series, it will be very difficult to get a hold of the rest of the books in the series, because usually it's just the first two from what I've seen, Tarzan of the Apes and then I think the second one is called The Return of Tarzan. If I do want to continue with the series, I guess I'm just gonna have like a mixed match of editions. Which, when I think about it, could actually be really cool. Yes, I'm blabbering about Tarzan, but quick recap if you don't know. Tarzan is a boy who ends up in the African jungle and is raised by apes. That's the story. One day there is a British girl on like this sort of research trip with her father. She and Tarzan meet and they fall in love, and he tries to become more civilized for her. I don't have the highest of expectations on this one, which I think is good, because as I've said, it's my favorite movie. It might even be like of all time. But I am aware that this original story does differ from Disney's version. I really do hope that I love it, because it would be a fun series and just like author an experience to explore. What's good about these Penguin Classics editions as well is that it actually has a introduction to the book itself. It also suggests further reading. If I end up enjoying the story, I will definitely look them up. What I'm trying to say is that if I do end up enjoying this book, I will most likely geek out about Tarzan, try to figure out more and how it became such a thing. Because there are so many retellings of Tarzan. We have George of the Jungle, which is also one of my favorite movies. If you have not watched that one, watch it. It's hilarious, but it's like hilarious with warmth. It's feel good. It's really nice. I'm gonna stop talking about my love for Tarzan and George of the Jungle. We're getting to the end of this. The next two books I'm actually gonna talk about as in one, because it's Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, the sequel and trequel, or next sequel, to the Shadow and Bone series, which I finished the other day. Not gonna stay here for long, but as I've said, I want to read the Shadow and Bone series before the show comes out in April, and I just read the first book and I needed the other two books, so now I have them and I can continue to read them. I don't really want to know what these two are about because I'm already into the story. The first book is about Alina Starkle, and she kind of figures out that she has magical powers and that she can do things with these powers, and that those powers are very sought after. That's a very bad description of the book. And she starts training and figure out how to use these powers, and people want her for her powers, and this is the continuation of that series. I'm hoping that these books will bring more action and intrigue and conflict and relationship and drama than the first book did. Speaking of Shadow and Bone and the Grishaverse, I bought King of Scars, also by Leigh Bardugo. This is like the first book in a following series after Shadow and Bone. So we have Shadow and Bone, or the Grishaverse, which is 3 books, and then we have the Six of Crows duology, which is 2 books, and then we have this, King of Scars, which is like a new trilogy or duology. And you might wonder, hey Charlotte, you bought those other 2 as paperbacks. How come you didn't get this book as a paperback? Excellent question. I'm going to show you. As you know, I do prefer paperbacks, but if the hardcover is beautiful, or more importantly, if the hardcover is beautiful while naked, that sounds so wrong. If the hardcover looks good naked. There's no way to say this in a good way. If the hardcover is beautiful, especially without the dust jacket, then count on me getting the hardcover. This is what the book looks like without the hardcover. The backside is just black, but like, look at this. And this is the regular edition. This is no special edition, it's the regular hardback. It will fit well with my Six of Crows books. I got this one as the hardback and I'm so happy about it. Once again, I don't want to even read what this book is about, because it follows the events after both Shadow and Bone, which I have not read, and Six of Crows, which I have read. It follows Nikolai. And from the first book, I don't even know who Nikolai is yet at the moment. Like, he has not been a part of the series from what I know so far. So that's why I don't want to read the back of this book and I don't want to spoil myself. But yeah, it's beautiful, right? It's so beautiful. There's only 1 book left here. The final book in this haul is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. And this is my buddy read for March together with Jane from the Bookaholic. I've kind of started it, not really though. I read the prologue, like the first 4 pages, and then I got tired and I went to bed. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling taking place in Shanghai during the 1920s. If that does not entice you, I don't know what will. It's about these two rival gangs. They are fighting, just like how Romeo and Juliet's families fought. So it's gangsters, it's the 1920s with like the flapper girls and stuff, and it's also fantasy. And I've heard some people say that the fantasy element is just a bit... It wasn't necessary for this book because the retelling in itself is so strong. But we're gonna have to see about the fantasy element of this one. This one, unfortunately, even though I got it as a hardback, there's really nothing that interesting underneath it. But I think the cover in itself is stunning and gorgeous. Yeah, I got this as a hardback. I do enjoy a bit of variety. Most of these are paperbacks because it's convenient. I like the back cracking of them. It's cheaper also. But this one, I just felt like having this one as a hardback. It's not deeper than that. And that's the haul! I'm so excited about these books. I've been planning this haul for a while, but this guy took quite a bit of time to get home for some reason. I don't know, it was delayed. The rest of them I've had for a while, but I was waiting for King of Scars. But I got it the other day, I could film this haul, I'm very happy about it. Just let me know, what book should I pick up next? Have you read any of these books? Are any of them on your TBR? Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, goodbye!
You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before.
Balance the books. You can do it. You can do it. Am I afraid? Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh no. Like for every book I lose, I can put this stack higher at least. And we're losing it. We're losing it. Goodbye. Look at me. Okay, I should stop. Also, if I look very tired, it's because I am. Simple as that.